Hey all, Sakamoto Days Anime is back, everyone. And honestly, as a first episode introduction, it's very promising because right from the top, one thing I already noticed is the animation just in this episode alone is an improvement compared to Core One. And having recently just revisited Core One like a week ago before this episode dropped, the the animation in that I kind of discovered that the animation in that first core actually wasn't as bad as I had initially thought, but you can still tell they cut corners in a lot of areas. Whereas with this episode, everything does feel a little more, does feel like they, does feel like there's a little more fluid motion from scene to scene. There's more energy and life to the animation this time around, which granted, I'm not going to mince words. There are still areas you can tell where they cut corners, but even in those areas, it feels like there was more of a purpose behind that, just trying to save on budget. As when this episode did do something, did cut a corner here or there, it did feel like it was more for more like an artistic choice rather than just we're trying to save on budget. And yeah, as a whole, this episode definitely leaves me with a good first impression that what the trailer showed wasn't just promotional material. Like I meant, like which I will wasn't just promotional material. Like it is, we are going to get an uptick in the animation quality. I think this episode was just kind of like a bit of a tease of that to come, and it is going to get better from basically this point on. Like, and I will say though, it I will say though, it is kind of it it is kind of becoming a bit of an annoying standard operating procedure that I feel just kind of needs to die in order to like when it comes to like skimping out on the budget. Like I understand it to an extent, as I imagine a lot of companies that deal in anime production don't want to frivolously spend on something that might not be a sure thing, especially given how tenuous the hiring process of the anime industry is right now. But simultaneously, it does feel like a practice that really is kind of just getting a little old. Like, again, I understand the reasons why skimping out on the budget for that first part, but yeah, I think just given from this first episode, there's a clear uptick, and I feel like it would have been better if we had at least this level to start off with. Um, Now, in saying that, one immediate switch around that I do like with this episode's adaptation I like compared to the manga is the anime basically cold opens with Dump and Apart killing dudes and just generally showing what the killers are doing before cutting to the Sakamoto crew gathering information, whereas in the manga the reverse happened. And I do like this change simply for the fact that it's like obviously we've been waiting a while, so since episode 11 ended, so let's just jump right into the insanity and get people hooked in on that first couple of minutes, while also giving us some pretty good initial characterization as well. Because with Dump, her idea of killing is rooted in this very kind of lustful ecstasy, you could say. Like killing people is like the equivalent of an orgasm to her. So yeah, that's already pretty creepy, but then you go to a part who's got the whole perfectionist schizophrenic symmetry thing going on, and that when killing someone, everything has to be like perfectly aligned and it's proper pace. Like he's basically neurotic in this regard, and like, and the sad part is, as someone who just finished this arc up in the manga, a part is kind of probably the most typical case out of all of them, at least from a medical diagnosis standpoint. Like, a part is still crazy, don't get me wrong, but he's probably, a part's case of what you'd expect from a serial killer is probably the most typical of what you'd expect, whereas the others are just, yeah, they just take it to a whole new level of crazy. But getting back to the thick of it, though, this episode pretty much wasted no time in adapting the very first fight of of Shin versus Saw, and the further awakening of Shin's powers, where he now possesses the ability to predict people's movements. So in general, a very nice kind of development for Shin, how that he kind of now has another tool to add to his clairvoyant arsenal, so to speak. And And it kind of, again, it feeds into what Shin was telling Liu at the beginning of this, at the pretty much beginning before this fight even happened, that, yeah, one of the, that's, and it kind of carries over from Core 1, that, yeah, it's kind of feeding the idea that the enemies are getting stronger, and that, but Liu and Shin themselves are kind of staying the same, and that it fed into the idea of needing to get stronger in order to protect the Sakamoto family. So yeah, a generally nice development for Shin now that he generally nice development for Shin, but more importantly, I do like how the awakening of his powers itself kind of also served as a more emotional turning point for Shin's character as well, because Saw's taunts and threats against the Sakamoto family are what you could say kind of emotionally pushed him to that pushed Shin to the breaking point of awakening those powers, and that in itself kind of shows that Shin himself, while initially probably only kind of like going along with this whole idea in order to only going along with the idea of joining Sakamoto Star because he admired Sakamoto, now it has become something more where, much like Sakamoto, he has become accustomed to this new life and wants to do everything to protect it. Like, it's no longer just about Shin having some duty of admiration towards Taro to protect the Sakamoto family. Like, he genuinely feels he has become a part of that family now, and even now, I love how Saw just treats, and even beyond that, I love how during this whole fight, Saw was just kind of just treats killing people like a whole production. Like, it's kind of like if a drama kid became a serial killer. It's one of those things that's just terrifyingly fun to watch, you could say. But okay, let's now talk about the now. With that said, though, we do need to talk about the opening and ending for this core, because right out of the gate, both don't shy away from using very popping colors and visuals, but it's in the music choice where they go for completely different tones. Like, the opening goes for a very funky sort of upbeat tone, kind of capturing the more frenetic, action-packed side of the series, which is something the first opening did too, but whereas that one was kind of going for more rock thing, this is more like pop. This is more pop music kind of thing, which I do admit I think I do technically prefer the first opening when it comes to the music choice, but I think this one works just as well too because of how they match the music with the visuals. And whereas the ending, it goes for something a little more emotionally soothing, a very lo-fi pop number, but paired with very colorful visuals too, like the opening. But it's in the sort of imagery again where it all matters. Like it's a lo-fi pop number, but paired with visuals that kind of, you're getting to see a day in the life of these characters kind of thing. Day in the life of these characters, which is just as fun. But the more interesting thing with the ending though is that are the visuals. It's focusing solely on Sakamoto just walking while showing the snapshots of his life and the things he wants to protect and the life he had before and all that. But one thing that does stand out about this opening is not just how soothing it is, but it's how they show it that's fascinating, as the ending actually starts showing a zoetrope, and it's when it starts spinning, when that zoetrope starts spinning, or you start showing everything from the perspective of almost seeing Sakamoto viewing those snapshots through basically the zoetrope. And combining that with the color palette, it created something very artistically cool. Like, admittedly, like, I'm not gonna say this, like, the opening and the ending are kind of cheap, but it is they managed to still be very artistic with their visuals, this time around. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from Blue Sky, and on this Crunchyroll, be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share it around, guys. Dark Knight of Night, signing off. Later, everyone.